What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Psychedelic Light Show Review. I'm Steve Pavlovsky. I'm here with my co-host, Chris Zamartovich. And this is episode 10, and we have a special guest with us. We have, live from the West Coast, we got Steve Goldsmith of Liquid Light Productions. And he is one of the very early second generation of San Francisco light show artists, starting around 1990. So we're doing a really cool show. We've talked a lot in previous episodes about the first generation and all that, but now we have this whole rebirth coming about. And so we're very lucky to have him. And for the purposes of confusion, he's Liquid Steve West. I'm Liquid Steve East.
Yes, indeed. Got a Fillmore West and a Fillmore East, and this Liquid Steve West and a Liquid Steve East. It's all balanced.
Yeah, there's been
One Chris Martich.
There's been some arguments of who's Liquid Steve, and
Right.
Both.
There's East and West now. We figured it out.
No, yeah.
Okay, let me start the show out here, guys. I'm going to be chomping away and telling you guys all kinds of stuff here. All right, so originally we started out with episode 2, and the theme of this show is sort of what goes around comes around, or history repeats itself. That's kind of going to happen here. And so originally there was the old Fillmore in San Francisco, and there was the Family Dog, which was the Avalon Ballroom. And so they closed down in the 60s. And then in episode 7 with John Brand, the last slides were the Jefferson Airplane played at the Fillmore with the Brotherhood of Light, and the Loma Prieta earthquake happened, and they shut down. And now we're right now in 1990. So it's 25 years later from that original show we did 10 shows ago. Okay. So
13,
now I'm
13 shows ago.
Well,
we had a couple of
episodes.
We had a couple of part 2s, but
yeah, a couple part 2s, but it's really episode 10.
Yeah.
So
right.
okay, so we're going to go to something that has been a constant. And I'm going to do the slideshow here. Here we go. Start. And okay, you guys see that?
Yeah.
Okay, so the one constant of the psychedelic revolution was the Grateful Dead, right, Steve? Why don't you tell us about them? You used to go see them quite a few times.
You're talking me, Steve. Steve
Yes.
West.
Steve West.
Steve West.
Yes, the Grateful Dead. I mean, it was basically, as I was saying earlier, it's absolutely the case that the Grateful Dead is 100% responsible for the psychedelic revolution surviving from the 1960s to the 1990s. Back when I first started doing shows, most people really, their attitude about the 60s and about hippies and about the peace and love movement was much more like what Elvis Costello was saying, where he was saying, what's wrong with peace, love, and understanding, which was a direct result or was a response to the cynical attitude of, oh, the hippie stuff, it's old, it's gone, it's done. So the Grateful Dead carried that message. They definitely, if it hadn't been for them, it would not have made it those 20 years. That said, they also did take all the air out of the room. There was really no other way that a promoter that was trying to promote psychedelic events or artists that wanted to work outside of the sphere of the Grateful Dead. It was very hard because the Grateful Dead would come to town and their audiences would all up and leave and go on tour. So it was kind of a locked-in market. And it was really only at the end of in the 90s, at the passing, when Jerry Garcia passed, that all of a sudden things started opening up, because it wasn't just the Grateful Dead, and there was this huge fan base.
We're going to get into that. Okay, so this is 1985, right? Joe Segura's light show with the Dead at Kaiser, right? We both saw
the lower right, yes.
The bottom right. The top left is Candace Brightman on the left, but yeah.
Let me get my laser pointer going here.
Yeah.
Yeah, that show unearthed itself up on the Psychedelic Light Show webpage.
Yeah,
and like I was watching. It's great.
Yeah.
It's a real opportunity.
Yeah. Okay, and then
really good. Yes, it's really
this
good.
Is Jerry at the Greek with John Cipollino, who's a friend of ours, and then of course the Grateful Dead. And the one thing I want to say is they were the biggest grossing band in 1990, or one of, and they didn't say anything to the audience. They didn't dress up. They didn't have dancing girls. They were just straight music. But then here's Candace's show. They're playing like some huge football stadium somewhere.
It looks like the 90s.
Yeah, probably was in the late,
right.
well,
Yeah, there's
they
a video. Well,
only,
there's video walls there.
they
So
only lasted to the 90s. So yeah,
The
look at the,
94, but they were very big. That was when they did the JFK shows and all those
yeah.
monstrous things.
yeah.
Yeah.
And so this is the checkerboard video wall. You can see it. Remember how they were almost like TVs that were stacked on top of each other.
They were.
Okay. Yeah. Anyway, so let's move on
Wait,
to
say really quick. What was the date of the show in the bottom right? Because I've seen that video and it's very good.
it's 85 in like October or
September
September,
85,
okay.
I believe.
And what's the venue so viewers can find it online?
Henry J. Kaiser Auditorium. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, very good show. Check it out if you can.
Yeah, and they're using reflectives. I've done a show there with Phil Lesh and
I
Lauren
was
Hayes.
there, and that was quite frankly the first time I'd seen liquid lights done at a large venue with a major act ever. I'd seen it a couple other times, but that was the one time, and we were blown away that it was actually happening.
And who was it that did the light
It was
show?
Joe Segura did it, and I think Brian Epps from Brotherhood of Light was the liquid guy.
Cool.
And I don't know who did the reflectives. I really don't.
Cool.
Joe would never tell me. All right, so now we're going to move on. It's 19. I got a little story I'm going to tell about this guy here, Bill Graham. Okay, so obviously it's 1991. We all know he died that year in a helicopter crash. But before he died, anyway, I had Bill Graham, David Graham, and Al Crabtree had hooked me and Pete up with the Allman Brothers, and we were on tour with the Allman Brothers for a year. And now in 1991, I had put together a much better show. It was all analog, but it was like run with computers, and we had projectors hanging in the trusses with 9 projectors. And then we had liquid lights on the side of the stage. And so I was doing a show at Shoreline with Little Feat and Allman Brothers, and Bill was standing next to me on stage and dancing. It was his favorite band, the Allman Brothers.
I remember that.
The thing was that, it's kind of like when your uncle or your dad or your professor or your coach or somebody's next to you and go, good job, boy, you made it. Like he didn't say that, but that was the vibe, because he knew I was just a party guy who was bootlegging T-shirts and stuff before that. And trying
Could I
to
add one more point to that?
Sure,
one more point to that with Bill was that what I got out of that was an approval of the return of the light show to the West Coast because there had been issues, and I thought that was very crucial. And I was looking at it going, wow, if Bill is dancing that hard, it means there's a future for visuals on the West Coast again.
Oh, wow.
So Steve goes on tour with us because he's really interested in getting involved with light shows, and he knows that we're kind of the guys doing it, right? Obviously. So we go for another 2.5 weeks, and we're in Raleigh, North Carolina, and there was like a Sunday night or something, or whatever, it was Saturday night, and we all of a sudden got the message that night on stage that Bill Graham had crashed in a helicopter, and the Allman Brothers, he meant a lot to them. And you were there, Steve. That was pretty shocking.
Yeah, it was intense. Moment of silence, everything. Yeah.
And so now, so Steve and I, we return. I'm still touring with the Allman Brothers, but he goes to work at the Bill Graham Archive, okay, and started doing all these Jerry Garcia shows at the Warfield because the Fillmore's closed. So here we go. And there's just a variety. Look how many dates Jerry played.
They were so much fun. They were these. You want me to speak on that at the moment, or are you?
Yeah, it's all you,
please.
Basically, they were incredible because they weren't light shows behind the band. What was happening was we did these lobby light shows, and it was the Archives crew, and so it was literally about 15 different of some of the most creative minds you could ever possibly imagine, mostly under the direction of a woman named Rebecca Nichols, though James Olness did have a part in that. And what we were doing is we were setting up these variety of different types of effects, everything from slide projectors, to overhead projectors, to new video projectors. And it was like at this crossover moment in time where the brand new stuff was just coming in. And we were sitting there surrounded by a bar, basically, with like 150 people all just hanging out, watching us and having a good time. And we did all of these Jerry shows that way. And it was incredible. Wow. It was so much fun. We also were like putting up posters we were doing hanging stuff in the lobby and in a lot of other archival ambiance stuff. But the lobby light shows were just fantastic. They were some of the most creative events I've ever participated in.
So let me add to that. Wait, I'm going to add to that for a second. So what would happen is you'd go to the Bill Graham Presents on 4th Street in San Francisco. It's this big, long building. You go upstairs and you'd walk through this giant archive, all the art departments, all the booking departments, and then you'd get back to the archive. And there was a little room in the back where James was and Rebecca was. And then there was like a giant light table and there was all kinds of slides, every poster imaginable. And that's where we created the shows. And Rebecca would go, well, it's Bob Marley's birthday. Let's do a Bob Marley tonight. And then, oh, it's Valentine. Let's do a Valentine's theme. So there's always a different theme. So go ahead, Steve.
No, I was going to ask. So this was like literally in the lobby.
Yes, on the second floor, and like you'd be coming up the grand staircase on the right and the left, and we had big screens. And so then up on the balcony, we'd be off like projecting across the stairwell. So as everybody came upstairs, you'd have this big light show on one side, and for everybody that was hanging out in the upstairs lobby, it was just this full wall.
Oh wow, that's awesome.
It was really beautiful.
Yeah, really cool.
You know, and it was for the most part predated video projection. I think we had a couple. We still had a 3-gun CRT projector that we were using as a serious projector back then.
That's wow.
I mean, and look how many.
Old school.
I think the posters I got here, there's like 22 dates or something that I just showed you guys. And there's the Warfield, there's the theater. It's kind of.
I mean, but there'd be nights. There'd be nights where we'd be in there, and it would literally be a handful of archivists and Jerry on stage sound checking.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I mean, it was just really, really special. I mean,
well, Jerry was the house band at the Warfield. And then, you know, the day he died, guess the band that played there. I don't know if you know this, Steve.
I don't.
Megadeth.
No way. Awesome.
That's perfect.
Carmela told me that. We go, oh, that was awful. It was the night Megadeth played, Jerry died. I was like, God, how appropriate.
Oh, man.
Okay, so now, all right, so then a couple of years later, you guys did these for like 3-4 years, and then they finally got the Fillmore to open again. So here we go.
Yeah.
The old Fillmore opens, and these are all shows that I think you and I did together. Some of them. Here's the Ken Kesey one.
Yep, the Twister gig. I remember that.
They pull up the
all
bus,
of those,
and
actually.
it was like an acid test. It was like crazy, you know. And I was running the film projectors for those guys. Again,
that was the archives crew was part of that as well. Remember, we had the Big Bertha machine, and you were up in the balcony. So we had one of those long, like industrialized overhead projectors that had a hood that's like about 4 feet long. Probably designed to like blind the Nazis in World War II. But at any rate, so we had that. But then on the side, you had a whole table of other overheads and projectors on the wall, and we had the whole arc with slide. But it was mostly slide projectors. There was really no video at that, I don't believe.
You guys use wheels and all that in front of the projectors?
I'm sorry?
You guys use color wheels and animation wheels and all that in front of them? Or?
Not. We kind of we were doing like dubs where we would do animation. They had all these incredible archive slides in the archives. Pretty much every image you could imagine from the 1960s was on a glass mounted slide in there, and we had access to all of that. So it was like we would come in with like three banks of 3 slide projectors. So, you know, you hang it on the wall, you have 3 slide projectors, and then you can animate between the 3 of them. And each of those went on one of the 3 screens. And then the main screen, I don't remember, but I would presume we had a long throw lens for those ones, you know, something like that.
Really cool.
Okay, so let's go over these shows really quick, just to name them off. Okay, so we got the Twister with Ken Kesey. Then we've got the Starship, and that was with Bob Weir. One of them I remember with Bob Weir with Valentine's band, which was Henry Kaiser and Prairie Prince, which was better than Rat Dog as far as I was concerned. Now, I did this show with Crosby, Stills, Nash, and Rebecca had brought me in, and I was on Liquids, and those guys walked in and they got on stage, and I started jamming with them, and they were just like playing, like, you know, rocking out and watching the light show and just loving it. And the lighting guy came and gave me a list. Oh, I like that color. I like that one. And I did a show with them. It was fantastic. And then Country Joe, that was an archive show. This is the only time they ever got back together since the 60s.
Wow.
And then Abraxas was Santana with Neil Schon from Journey on guitar.
I remember that one very.
Yeah, we did 3 of those. Then the Allman Brothers were there. You were at that one. Then Greg played there like 6 times. And then this Gibson guitar benefit one was like, you know, all these musicians showed up. Jerry Miller and,
Well, the Fillmore had been closed, and when it was opened, I mean, it was actually a really special place. We polished the chandelier. Each single crystal got hand polished, and so bands were coming in there, and it really felt like it was special to be part of the reopening of that. I mean, truth is that Bill Graham stood in the doorway and prevented the city inspector from putting a red tag on that building after the earthquake. They wanted to tear it down, and he personally stopped them from doing
I
it.
didn't know that. Wow.
Yeah, the People's Temple that was right next door, that got torn down. They wanted to take the Fillmore too.
Whoa.
Okay, so now, yeah, they put a post office there. Okay, so now what happens is in San Francisco, Fillmore's going. Okay, the Dead, when Bill died, they didn't want to play New Year's, so we did a show at this Maritime Hall with Zero and this band Mojo Hana with the sound crew from the Dead. They put it together, and Brotherhood of Light. And that was the first Maritime show. It was a New Year's in '92. And then they did a hooker's ball, which was kind of like exotic. And then they did this Chet benefit. I don't know, were you at this Chet benefit that they did there? I wasn't there. Bill Ham, everybody was there, but all the bands were there, you know, from San Francisco. And I was in Detroit with the Allman Brothers, and Bert, for the only time he didn't ship me home the day after the show, he shipped me home the next day, and I missed this show. Okay, so anyway, then Boots Houston and Chet Helms decide to relaunch the Family Dog at Maritime Hall. So
Maritime Hall.
There's
I
Chet.
think
You see Chet there, and this is the first poster, and then this is the hall. It's an old Art Deco building. Yeah.
Yes, and it's so sad because back when it was there, it was literally the tallest building around. You can see that in the lower left. Today, it's just shrouded by skyscrapers.
Yeah, we saw pictures of this and what it looks like now. Yeah, I had no idea it was just this like Art Deco building. It's very cool.
Yeah,
Sailors Union. I mean, the thing was made by the shipbuilders as a ship. It's got brass rails in it. It's got an electrical system like they would put in a boat. I mean, there's all kinds of, the downstairs looks like round porthole windows. I mean, the place is really cool. Malachite stairways.
Wow.
Yeah, it's got, and this, then Boots put this elevator in, which is like a construction elevator from Europe. And that's how we got the gear up. You can see that right there, Steve.
Carnival ride.
Yeah, a little story about Jerry Abrams and that elevator coming up, but here it goes. So now this is the interior of the building right here. So there's the auditorium, and that's where we did the light show up there. Remember, we had
those curved walls. Yep.
And then the whole thing was white ceiling. Like, it looks black here, but this is all white. You turn out the lights. It was, I mean, we're talking like giant walls on the side, giant ceiling.
It's perfect for projecting.
Yeah, it was
Is
incredible.
that a CRT projector there in the middle? The three?
No, that's just
balcony?
three port. That was the lighting system for the 1940s or 50s when they built it after World War II.
That would have petered out after 5 rows. I would have never made
if it was a CRT.
Yeah. No, actually, these two lights that are on stage, I pulled out of there and put them on stage. They were like 5K Fresnels. But anyway, so we built a stage. We extended the stage out. It was a tiny stage, and we put trusses in, and then we were just going to project all over the building. That was the whole concept, which we did. And so here's another shot.
Where were you guys set up when you did this to project?
On the balcony.
On that balcony. Now here's the hiring hall down here. You see how it has that nautical theme?
Yeah.
Picture on the left. And this is Boots Houston, the guy who financed it and ran it. And
fearless leader.
And then this is Bobby Palermo, Boots, Schumann, and myself we're putting up the trussing, we're putting it all together. So
and this is the very first show at the venue?
The very first show will be in the next slide, and here it is. Greg Allman, Zero, which was our house band, like we're kind of like a Grateful Dead, and then Iron Butterfly. So I got to do in the Gata de Vida.
That's cool.
And then, so I'm going to run through these posters real quick. We did Motorhead, and I think you were doing liquids on this, Steve. When I hired you.
I was at the first. See, these shows actually crossed over because it was like I was still at BGP while you were doing all that work. But then right after I left BGP, like literally the day Jerry passed away was my last day working there. And so it like must have all been right at that exact moment. But my first show was with the New Year's show. and then I didn't do Motorhead, but I did Fungo Mungo. And after
Okay.
that, Boots offered to like
Yeah.
make me the house guy.
Yeah. Well, what happened here?
And then the Mose Allison show, first show, that one on the right, top right, was the first time I ever saw my name on a real official poster. It was the most amazing experience for me. I still have incredible gratitude for all of that. You know,
so I did all three of these. Okay, so I'm going to go through this real quick. So that's Steve's first show with Mose Allison. Okay, and then the Zero show was Walter with Fly By Light.
And Canned Heat as the musician. And
Canned Heat is another band. Zero and Canned Heat was the bill. And then Etta James, a blues singer, and the show was Multimedia Meltdown. And then I did the James Brown, the Brotherhood of Light did James Brown. And then this show was Look See, which was a Reed show.
It's Reed's show.
And then this show is Jerry Abrams' show.
Oh, wow.
And that was when I first met Jerry Abrams.
Oh, wow. And so these are all
these Family Dog traditional stuff here. You know, we were doing the old school, like, let's hire each light show from all over town to come in and we'll pay them whatever. It's pretty good. They got paid pretty good. Here's the next post.
Jerry Abrams came in with his 20 slide projectors and the crew, and was so kind, took us all out for dinner after the event. I mean, just an absolute gentleman. I'd never met him before. He was so cool. Well, you know, and it was the one opportunity that I had to do a show with 12 movie projectors,
you were doing
all
liquids.
that stuff.
So Steve was always hired to do liquids because everybody else, there were so much walls to cover in this building.
Yeah. How many people would have been in the light show?
Oh, it just depends.
I mean, was it like, we're talking like 10, 12?
Well, like Jerry Abrams had movies on each side that went to these just two big screens on either side of the wall. And they were
Boots put in movie screens. He actually put in, they were like maybe 15 by 30 or 40 foot screens
on the sides.
And you know, they never made any shot because they were on the side walls, so they never made a single photograph. You know, they just were like, nobody even remembers they were there. But
I was going to ask you there if there's any photographs of this. But
well, we're going to have some
sort of.
There's a couple.
All right, good.
Okay, so let's see. So during this, Look See is on this one right here. There's Reed again.
There's Reed's show. Yeah, they were on our last episode.
Yeah, right. And okay, so I'm going to tell one little Jerry Abrams story. I guess he took you guys out to dinner, but so finally, Jerry Abrams is a total gentleman, and he's always been an explosive guy, you know, a super complainer. So finally, we load him out. We get all his gear in that elevator, and so we're standing on the deck. It's this exterior deck, and the elevator's going down like this, and it's all grilled, you know. It's a construction elevator. And the last time I see his face and his hands, he just goes, "You blank, blank, blah, blah, blah," and just start every swear word in the book, double fingers, and he just disappeared. He waited till he got off the property. And I mean, we paid him like, you know, whatever, $600 cash. It wasn't like he got burnt or anything, but he just had to blow up.
What was he mad for? What made him mad?
It's Jerry Abrams. Come on.
God knows. I'm saying that elevator, it wasn't just you go down, because the thing turned on, it would go ka-chunk. And so you got the hard drop, and then it would drop.
Yeah, it was funny as hell. Yeah, man, it was just a crack up. I didn't want to swear on that one. Okay, so then what happens is, now this week went on for about 7 or 8 months. I do want to make a point
about the posters, that this was actually a revival of some of the most beautiful of San Francisco psychedelic art that I'd seen in 20 years. It's like, look at this artwork. This was just gorgeous, and it was very much in the original traditions.
Yeah, I can see that, the style. Yep.
Okay, so what happens is, at the next juncture, of course, you know, just like at Bill Graham, history repeats itself. Remember, Chet leaves. He can't take Boots. He can't take the business. He's out of there. So now we have a new name, Maritime Hall. Okay, 2B1 Productions. Okay, that's Boots's gig. And you in the background of this picture, you can see where I'm projecting.
Oh yeah,
a slide projector in the corner.
Yeah.
There's a Maritime. We're just all over the ceiling, man. You know. And now this is. Okay, the bummer about this is everybody had these digital 8 cameras, these high 8 cameras or whatever they were, and nobody had stills. It was still film, you know, it was still analog. So nobody had digital cameras, and you just couldn't pick up. This is the hall.
Oh, wow.
And it looks so much brighter than that. It
Oh
really
yeah,
did.
yeah, definitely. Yeah, this is just
You know,
what the camera can pick
And
up.
you can see the side screen over here.
Oh
Okay.
yeah, yeah. There's yeah.
Yep,
On
there
each
it is.
side.
Oh man, that's
Mhm.
amazing.
Yeah, and then there's your logo, Steve. And then this was at the Chet Helms Summer of Love event, and there's Steve.
Wow, I
Uh,
I forgot about that picture. That's
yeah,
cool.
25 years ago maybe. And then
Wow.
that's me, and that's Chip, our buddy. Remember we did that show at the Golden Gate Park, the polo. No, it wasn't a polo
Yes,
field. It was a
that was epic.
soccer
That was
field.
a Jefferson
Yeah,
Starship, right?
a Starship. Yeah, I booked.
Yeah.
We were working with them, and we were on tour with them. You and
Yeah.
I. And
Yes.
so I hooked him up with Chet anyway, and the
So-
Sons of Champlin. Yeah.
So to clarify, Chet Helms was trying to restart. He rebranded as the Avalon, but then when he got out, it changed over to Maritime.
Well, no, Family Dog.
No,
Oh, Family
Family
Dog.
Dog Productions.
Family Dog Productions. Got it.
And
Okay.
something you'll notice is from the time that it changed to 2B1, Boots was smart. You could not put on just hippie shows and survive in the market. And he started really running the place. And like for a while, he was having these Thursday night blues nights that were really not doing very well, but he kept having them to build people up. And he was like, any night that he could do a show, he did. And eventually, it really picked up. I mean, it took a bit, but it was definitely, it was a changer. They worked the place went from being a hippie venue to being kind of a world-class music venue of all different types of music.
Cool.
So yeah, what happened was Bill Graham wouldn't. Okay, these acts like reggae and like soul acts, they want cash. They were still like on the Chitlin circuit type attitude. So Bill Graham was like, "Screw you! You won't take my check, so I won't book you." So we got all those bands.
Oh,
That's what we
cool.
got, like James Brown and all these reggae bands. Now this is the one shot
Hip-hop,
of the
too.
light show.
Yeah, I
Here
was
you
gonna
go,
ask. I was
Steve.
gonna ask about
Check this
hip-hop.
out. Wait.
Oh, cool.
There we go. Yeah,
So-
so you can
so-
see the screen on the left with that
Yeah.
bright 750 lumen projector.
Oh, and that's the hood that you were talking about. Wow. Yeah.
But those overheads there, those are well, actually not the one in the photograph with me, but the ones on the wall you're looking at are actually Duquesne 9,000 lumen overhead projectors. You can't even find those things anymore.
Yeah.
But at the time, those were just gorgeous bright and like 10 times brighter than a Bessler. It was a huge innovation for oil projection. It allowed oil projection to punch through stage lights.
Yeah, and these would be the HMI, the metal halide bulbs, right?
Yes.
Yeah,
correct,
yeah,
right.
yep. Yeah. I have one too, and they are very, very hard to find.
I got
Okay.
Yeah.
Now on the left there, those just to give homage. Those are old best.
Right.
One's an old Bessler, the other's an old Transpac with a curved concave
Yeah.
mirror instead of a Fresnel.
I noticed you had
Yeah.
Transpac.
Oh yeah,
Okay,
then
so
yeah.
here's
tell us
Steve.
about
You can see Steve up here. You see where he's
Oh,
at?
it's
We're in
awesome.
the balcony, and then we
Yeah.
had this huge front of house, so what I ended up doing was, since we couldn't afford these light shows, these independent light shows, we bought two of these projectors. We built this mount, and we hit each wall with video projectors.
Mhm.
And then they had a video crew that did videos of the bands with these shitty cameras.
Like iMag.
Well, but they were digital 8 cameras. They had 300-foot runs, and they went into a Vidionics in this
Well,
little.
what was
yeah.
funny, Boots hooked them up. The video runs went to the remote control inside the box with the camera. So the remote control was up there in the balcony, right next to the camera, and then you hit these I guess ribbon strips down to the room and to this
Oh.
like Vidionics projector, and it was clever. It worked.
Yeah. So then we would take the feed, and then I made all the I made a lot of tapes. We were using videotapes at this point, and now it's the late 90s.
Which were
right?
actually a industry top of the line at
Yeah,
that.
and we had an MX50 mixer, a really good mixer, which had some
Yeah.
effects, and then we had their video feed plus these videotapes.
Oh, all
And
right.
so I would just give my rough tapes to the hall. Like I'd make, like, let's say I got pictures of Hawaii. I just make a tape with a bunch of jungles and waves and stuff and trees. And then we'd mix that onto a reggae show, and it looked like they're playing in Jamaica. Right. So we
Mhm.
just did, and but the thing was, Boots quit paying. He only paid Steve a certain amount of money to do. So Steve had to do 2 liquids and run these tapes. So just be these tapes,
Right.
keyed in. It was like you did it every night for like how many nights?
Well, that's why you see the two me there together. Originally, I had one projector on each side wall, and there were people working it. But at a certain point, I had to do the whole thing myself. So yes, I had the project. It was great because between that and the raves I did, that was how I learned my projection, was one hand on each, double fisted liquids every night for months and months and months.
It's
It was
classic.
great. It was hard work. But I mean, to get back to the MX50, remember, that was the first really good commercial video mixer combined with some of the first video projectors. And we were really transitioning. When I came into the Maritime Hall, we had slide projectors. When we left, we were doing straight up video, and we were actually at DVDs by the time we left. And so it was a major transition,
Wow.
turn of the century. And yeah, we had like this giant box with maybe over like 250 different VCR tapes that we built into it as we went, and then we'd mix them with that MX50, and it would, and they would just, and we just would have these like ongoing psychedelic projections, very much like what it looked like in the 1960s.
Yeah, it was
Except
cool.
very bright and
super
much
wild
more
looking.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that sounds
like
amazing.
for instance, I remember one night. So I was a lighting guy, and I did all the lights. I couldn't really do much of a light show because I was always the lighting guy, and I was always having to follow the band with the lecos and or call spots or do the washes and focuses. So I was always on the lights, which was great because I did projection on the road with the Allman Brothers. So it was really great to be able to come and do lights. So Steve and I would be the two guys in lighting. He'd be doing video, I'd be doing lights. And it was a lot of fun, man.
That place was epic. There were 3 stories, and they would sometimes have a rave. They would have a goth club in the basement, a rave on the second floor, and the rock show on the top floor, all going simultaneously with close to 8,000 people in the building.
Wow.
It was really amazing. And turn of the century.
So it's like late 90s kind of around.
Yeah, turn of the century, late 90s.
Yeah. It opened up in 95 and went to
cool.
2001. Okay, so here's like some of the posters. There's Ken Kesey, remember he was there, and there's Steve.
My daughter Michelle.
There's your daughter right there. Daughter. There's the
She's
Maritime
actually a
logo.
concert promoter now.
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
And then here's the 4 nights with 4 nights with Phil Lesh, Bunny Whaler, Phil Lesh again, The Summer of Love, which I just like that poster. And then
you can see the projection behind the soundboard. You can see the Maritime Hall slide. Yeah.
And then we just so what they would do is they would do a monthly poster, as you can see here. And it just, why don't you just start talking about, I can talk who was there. Well, look at Morrissey was there. But
let me see, what are we looking at?
Yeah, let's let Steve go.
Yeah.
Let's see what we're looking at. Yeah, well, we would have bands like Ika Mouse came through, and it's like that was a whole big thing, was that this reggae, nobody wanted to book reggae. Reggae had pretty much been, blacklisted in San Francisco, and Boots really welcomed reggae in, and it brought all of these incredible Jamaican artists to the United States, and especially to the West Coast, that had not been here, like Israel Vibrations, Ika Mouse, and
Lee Scratch Perry.
Perry. And it opened, and
Bunny Whaler.
And in many ways, the modern reggae circuit that you see today was opened by the Maritime Hall in San Francisco. And there are a couple other promoters that did some festivals around the West Coast, and they were in conjunction with Boots at some points. So it was a pretty significant thing. What are these?
Well, we won't be able to read these, but you can just see how many shows we were doing. It was amazing.
See, there's Bunny Whaler on that one.
Okay, we also did. Okay, so we did reggae, then we did metal. Dio was there. Rammstein was there. I mean, Rammstein is one of the hugest bands in the world, man, and they were there twice.
And I'm looking at it like you guys had Digital Underground. I was going to ask about the rap acts that you had.
We had every rap act.
We had Long Beach Dub All Stars, which was sublime after Bradley Noel passed away. He actually was supposed to play at the Maritime the night he died, but we had Long Beach Dub All Stars there back in the heyday of that band. But to go to a rap, we had LL Cool J, KRS-One came through there.
Oh, wow.
NWA.
Amazing show, total conscious hip hop. Nobody wanted to book hip hop. There was the whole stigma of the gangsters, and it's like some of the coolest kids showed up at those events, man. Never any violence.
We had a Redman, Gangstar.
Oh wow, That's awesome.
They were all there, every band,
That's really
every
cool.
hip hop. And then we did punk too. Then we started doing all that punk stuff like Pennywise and
Yeah.
all these different alternative bands. But the metal was a Testament and Exodus and Soulfly and Sepultura.
Yeah,
And
I
then
see,
guys like
you got Cannibal Corpse down there. And,
yeah.
like,
And
yeah.
and then
Shonen
Diamond.
Knife. Yeah. King Diamond there.
Yeah, we had
Most
King
guys,
Diamond.
they got to the point where the English rock acts knew about the Maritime Hall. It actually got a reputation
Yeah.
internationally because all those heavy metal bands came through.
Yeah.
There's a place up in New York. It's called the Chance. It's like a 1,200 seater, and they book all that metal, and we booked all the metal. So we were
Mhm.
metal, reggae, hip hop, and hippie.
The things that were kind of like
And rave, and techno. Don't
and
forget that
techno.
it was a
Yeah,
big,
it
was
was
a big
crazy.
deal.
And so
That's awesome.
here's some more stuff here. So you can see Boots. We had the Jefferson Starship and everything. And there's Boots. He was kind of overwhelmed at some point. See him there, Steve? That's a classic Boots when you went into the office, remember? And there he'd be, oh my God.
God bless him, man. So yeah, look at that one with the spaceship. That's got like all those hippie bands. That had Ken Kesey,
That's the
Unbroken
Ken
Chain.
Kesey.
Yeah.
Unbroken Chain, I believe that was the year anniversary of Jerry Garcia's death.
Well, and that was Dick's Picks.
Yes.
Came in
No, I
mixed
thought it
video. Yeah,
was
he
it
was
Dark
there.
Star Dan? I thought it was Dark Star Dan who did that. I could be wrong.
Well, he did later because Dick died, but he did the first one. He was still alive.
That one with the UFO too. I see you got Beanie Man talk about Reggae X, and then you got De La Soul. Like,
Oh yeah,
really cool groups that look
and
like.
you
they
know
came
that
through
was
there.
actually the one of the best parts about the Maritime was if they were just playing reggae every night, people would get tired and not go there. It was like there was all kinds of so many different music that it was always fresh there, and it gave people it was a constantly revolving fan base, so
Right.
it kept really vibrant.
yeah. It was like,
I mean,
and Todd Rundgren was there. Flaming Lips, we had 3 times. Crystal Method, the Orb. I mean, it just went
Definitely.
on and on, man. It was
Right
and it
there,
was,
far right hand.
Slipknot was there.
Far
Remember?
right-hand corner of the Jefferson Starship. That was, I believe, the first Cybercast event. Wasn't that the very first event that was Cybercast on the web
Yes,
or
it
something?
was. Yeah, it was. Yeah.
No way.
I mean, you got to remember, 95 was the birth of the internet. You know,
Yeah.
prior to that, it wasn't there. I mean, yeah, in some college
was around,
laboratory, maybe,
Yeah.
but
Hmm.
Yeah, it was
so
not
we were
happening.
all of these things were coming together at the turn of the century. It was it was happening.
Yeah, yeah.
And here's just another 50 shows or 100 shows right there, and the posters were themed. I mean, you gotta love the hot rod one or the disco one, and here's Dio was there,
And again,
Yeah.
once again, look at the artwork. I mean, we're
Willie
talking-
Nelson. We had Willie Nelson there. We had who else did we have? Waylon Jennings.
hieroglyphics, Etta
Oh,
James.
Yeah.
Yeah, it
Wow.
was
You got Etta James there too.
Yep.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it just went
Offspring,
on. It was
Outkast.
amazing. Yeah, there was all kinds. Yeah, the Outcast was there. Who else did I do? Black Eyed Peas were there. I did light shows.
So you guys did light shows for all of these groups,
Every
regardless
band.
of
Every one of them, man.
So
Every
did you do
band.
something like? Did you change it up, like not do liquids, let's say for like a rap group, or
Well,
would you throw
I'll
those in
explain
anyway?
some
Oh no, we did I had to do a light show to get paid, so I did a
Right.
light show every night.
Right.
Yeah, and so
yeah.
the deal. This was the deal. We made all these tapes, like you said, we had 90 tapes. So it was a metal band. I would have like horror movies keyed in with the metal guys playing, and there'd be like Night of the Living Dead walking behind them, and for like Napalm Death or whatever. So I had different tapes, or like I said, if it was I put on the Hawaii tape, it was reggae. Or we put on I made some themed reggae tapes of with all their gods and their people that they worshipped,
You know
right?
what was interesting is that I found that, like, you're right, there was this liquids are hippie stuff, but no. After I started doing like some of these shows, I ended up getting hired to do liquids at reggae shows and at punk shows and at a lot of other shows. A lot of bands. I ended up doing an MTV video for Devil Driver, with a liquid light show for them, and it's just like people wanted to see liquids. It was really unique at the time, and so it really, that's what I was, it changed. It went from being a hippie art form, the light show, into something that was much more mainstream, much more diverse, and it basically moved. That was the era that light shows moved into their modern state, where now we're everywhere and doing all these different kinds of music.
Right
And
on,
it's,
man.
I mean,
Awesome.
look, we had Moby was there, you know, we just did. I mean, it was pretty amazing the amount of bands that played there. The Roots, which were on NBC, they were
Yeah,
there
so you
like
had-
5 times.
The Jizza, who
You
else?
know,
Jimmy
Mo-
Cliff. Yeah.
King's X, there was a
This
lot of
is-
really cool bands.
This
you know.
era is really cool for me too, because this was like my like coming of age time from like 90 to 2000 was roughly the time I became from 10 to 20 years old. So I grew up. This is the era that I completely grew up in. I was in going high school,
Yeah,
college
yeah.
around this.
Seven Dust was there a bunch.
Yeah.
Jimmy
it's an
Cliff,
amazing era for
Jimmy
music.
Cliff was
This is
Jimmy
like-
Cliff was great.
Yeah.
His shows.
And I remember at that time too, like, a lot of those, like, which might be considered older bands, like from, which at that time were back in the day, but they were still just as popular, like
Right.
around that time. And then you had also all like the up and coming bands as well. Like the 90s had a lot of music, like
Well, we had Men at
you know,
Work was there.
MTV
Never
still
Throw-
played music back then.
Okay, so now I'm going to move on to one of Steve. So then Maritime Hall. So Steve started doing these festivals. So explain this one.
Oh, I've seen these. Yeah, these are cool.
This is the Earth Dance Dome, which was a large hippie festival that took place at the legendary Hog Farm property. And it was when they opened up and stopped just doing hippie festival, and they allowed this big global Earth Dance, which was basically a global peace party. And they would have events like this all over the world at the same time, and attempting to coordinate us to a better place, and as people. This was the late night electronica dome, which I did for a number of years, and it is exactly what you see. It was a giant dome. We had 5 video projectors, 3 overhead projectors in it, set the whole thing up in a circle, and it just went all night, every night for 3 nights in a row, and it was epic. It was absolutely epic.
You guys were in a circle around the circumference, projecting across.
No, I'd take the projectors and put them on stands on different places around the room, and then run wires back to a central tech table.
Yeah. I've done some like video mapping on domes, and same thing. We usually put them, on trusses and stands. This photo too, especially like this brings back memories, because when I started doing this stuff in like 2007, there was hardly anybody doing it. And it was even less information on there. On the internet to find. And so your site was one of the first ones that I found, and I clearly remember looking at these like, oh wow, I want to do that. So this like brings back, this was inspiring to me when I started. Yeah.
Let's go
Yeah,
to the next one.
basically this was predated video mapping technology by a long shot.
Oh yeah.
And I would basically take the projector, you put one up, and then you reverse the image on the next one, and then you reverse the image, and you kind of pile them around, so they're kind of reversed, and they match together, and run through an MX50 or something like that.
Okay, here's a bunch of shows you did.
The mirroring. Yeah.
This is just kind of a ride.
There's the Maritime Hall on the top top right, and that's the Fillmore, or the Fillmore. The next slide down.
Fillmore.
Down there in the bottom center, that's the Independent in San Francisco. The one on the bottom right of these parties called Bardot a Go-Go, Bridget Bardot, and we'd go in and do these French disco dance parties where everybody was dressed in miniskirts drinking martinis, and we would just splash liquids all over them, and it was great. It was a wonderful time.
I see you have a visual presenter there too as well in the left, right?
Once I think that, like I was saying, once we hit 3,000 lumen projectors, all of a sudden overhead stopped really working. I mean, the bottom line is a video projector that's more than 3,000 lumens is brighter than anything you can get with an overhead, and much more versatile. So I would say probably around 2000, around the turn of the century, was when presenters came in, and that was an amazing innovation. The presenter changed, and also it allowed us to become professional, because otherwise it was like we have to be in line with the screen, which means we have to be in the way of everything. And this allowed us to we could be in a separate room if we needed to be, which is what production companies and people want to see, is your ability to walk on eggshells and do pirouettes in order to get your light show up, and so it was a great advantage was when we went to presenters.
Okay, so I'm going to say something here. This run right here is the Kennel Club.
Yes,
which
Oh,
is
we talked
now,
about this in our last episode.
yeah. So now once again it comes around
with
back
leftover
to
salmon. That's leftover
so now
salmon.
it's
Oh,
called the
cool.
Independent, or it was the Justice League was the name of
It
it.
was when I was there. I went there after the Maritime, and it was a brief period called the Justice League, and it was a real Wild West club. It was like everybody was having a great time. There were really not a lot of rules, and they had great acts like Lee Scratch Perry that came through, and it was just, it was a great place. It still is. That club is a nice club. It always
It's still
has been.
going today, yeah.
But by whatever name you want to call it, it's great. Yeah.
Okay, so now this really comes around because I don't think our viewers are going to expect this one. Steve's doing a light show at the Avalon Ballroom.
That's actually the very first show that Steve Shirley, Morning Spring Rain, did there. It was the opening night, and you can tell because there isn't even a stage. They're playing on the carpet on the floor. There's no lights. It's just the building.
Wow.
And there's Steve up in the balcony where his light show is with his.
And you were like,
pirate.
it looks like you were projecting from the side. Like, I guess you couldn't get a straight
Yes,
shot.
yeah. They had a bunch of the side balcony, but you can't see it here. But to the right of that image, that whole wall was clear and white at that point.
Yeah, yeah.
So it was that whole wall was projected, and I had a fire burned up everything, and I have not a record of that. This is it.
But I think it's just so cool that it's like lasted a year or so there.
2 years.
2 years.
And it was actually significant because it happened right during the beginning of during 9/11 was when this went down, and literally the day of the largest anti-war protest in world history in 2002. There was Michael Fronte playing at the Avalon Ballroom and doing yoga on the floor with like a couple hundred people before the show, while there were helicopters and riots going on outside against the war. The backdrop of the turn of the century was, you got to remember that it was some very intense times what we were going through, and and everything in San Francisco reflected that.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, the other thing was during Maritime, I remember Bob Brailoff brought in Art Chaos, the program, but it was a big giant computer, desktop thing, and they hooked up a keyboard and they ran the shitty video feed that we had, which was kind of brownish because it was those high 8 cameras or digital 8 cameras, and so. But I noticed, I said, if I put really good artwork into this program, I can do a psychedelic light show. And that's the program I still use now.
Yeah.
Art Chaos, yeah. That's
so
brand
that
DJs.
was everything was turning around. The other thing I remember, this one guy, one time we were doing this show and it was like Pele Juju or somebody like that, these Bay Area .com band, and this guy comes, he's a really slick haircut. He's like, looks like a Jetson or something, from that. And he goes, I'm the digital option, like that was, like he came into us light show guys and goes, I'm the digital option here, like, I was like, oh my God, we're going to change here. Anyway,
I want to make a quick correction that earlier I was saying that we had showed the Avalon in our other show, in one of our very early shows. So that was the Avalon, not the Maritime Hall. That
was the Avalon, yeah.
Yeah, so that was the actual Avalon, which we saw what it looks like now. It's sort of almost looks like a bank now or something.
Yeah, a furniture store, I believe.
Well, it plays into this theme that here comes Chet, here comes the Avalon, here comes the Fillmore, and those the Avalon's closed, but the Fillmore's still going now, so it just never stops. This is the Fillmore.
Yeah,
Steve's doing a show there. Who is this?
New Year's Eve, something like 2006 or 7 or when that was, I believe. Yeah, and that, of course, that was like we had bright video projectors by then. That was a beautiful bright video projector.
Yeah.
I forgot to mention that when we did that first opening of the Fillmore show, it was like, I think it was Smashing Pumpkins, and we had a projector that was so heavy they had to use a crane to lift the thing up to the balcony to like project with it. This long lens, and it was just like, we've come so far. I mean, whippersnappers today don't know how good they got it. These little boxes that do 10K. I mean, it's amazing.
Yeah, so here's one of your images I'm going to show because I think it looks cool. This is kind of a modern.
Surfers.
Yeah, this is a mod. Oh, that's Butthole Surfer. This is a modern image that you've done, which looks a lot like stuff I do. Liquids and multimedia mixed in.
Yeah,
pretty cool.
And again, that's the beauty of a video projection versus overheads, is that you can mix it. It's not an overlay, which sometimes can be competitive. You can really luminance key in and make a perfect match between your oils and your video. It's wonderful.
Okay, here's a show that Steve did with the Jerry Garcia band without Jerry Garcia at the Warfield. So, and you're doing the main stage. It came full circle again. Here you are again.
That's Melvin Seals' band, and I believe
Melvin Seals. Yeah.
You know, I'm wondering if that's. I don't think that's Gloria. Gloria Jones was. She was in them, and then she passed, and we did a Gloria Jones memorial there. I don't think that was it, but that's it. That's the big screen at the Warfield. Yeah.
Very cool. And I'm going to show some stuff I did at the Fillmore, just to show the difference in the new projectors, because it just is unbelievable. Check this stuff out. I mean, this is the Greg Allman benefit, and then this was a 60s Summer of Love. That's my 10K projector. And look at Jerry there with Bob Weir playing. It's a Rex benefit. So, you know,
that's Rich Kirch, isn't it?
Pardon me?
Rich Kirch, isn't it? Doesn't that Rich? On your bottom left, Rich Kirch.
On the bottom left. Yeah, no, over here.
Those are the Allman Betts band.
Allman Betts band. That's
Devin, okay.
Devin and Dwayne.
My bad.
Dickie's son, Dwayne, and Greg's son. And then here's another one, which is really cool, which was It's a Beautiful Day. And then Bob Weir with, I think they were with Railroad Earth was the band.
Oh, cool.
And
is this the one that you did at the Fillmore like a couple of years ago?
I've done a few of them.
Right.
A bunch of different shows. This is three different shows.
Yeah.
This was the first Rex benefit, the second Rex benefit. This was the 60s benefit with It's a Beautiful Day and Quicksilver. And this was the American Beauty benefit. And then this was the Devin Allman with when Greg, the year Greg died.
That's just beautiful top left. That looks like wings. That's just beautiful on them. That's
great shot. I had the white bird going like this because I was using the Art Chaos melting program. There was a still I just animated. And of course, I'm going to say we love the Bay Area, even though it's kind of, we're over it, but we love that place.
It's pretty sad. It's pretty scary right now. I work in the city, and it's a ghost town at the moment. And I don't know how it's going to come back from this. It's going to be a long struggle.
New York's the same thing. It's, I mean, there's more people out now recently, but it's, I mean, all the office buildings are.
The economics in California are really troubling right now. I mean, before this whole COVID thing happened, it was already way too many people homeless, way too much struggling, and it's going to be. I am hopeful for a renaissance. I believe that everybody wants to see music. Everybody wants to go out. There's a lot of young people that have had no opportunity to be creative. We're going to see some fun times coming up. Things open.
Yeah. So the Maritime was right here. It's right next to the bridge. That's where it was located. And this is before they put in the Salesforce Tower and all that stuff. This is what it looked like back in the day. Why don't we go back to the three of us?
Yeah, let's go. How are we doing on time?
We're at 50 minutes.
Oh, cool. Yeah. Right on, man. That was cool. So
Nice.
that's really like a bunch of history, especially the maritime stuff that I wasn't really aware of or isn't really written about anywhere, or very underreported, but very historic time for the development of psychedelic light shows, or just not even a development, just a continuation, but the development of where we are here today, like.
Yeah, I do believe that, again, we didn't really touch on it too much. I don't know if you had, is that, there was a real dark ages for a minute. It's like in the 80s, there was not a lot of light shows at all. And the 90s was this incredible rebirth. And it's like, it's really very big now. I mean, like I go to the Facebook page, there's artists all over the world doing this. It's beautiful. It's
all kinds of stuff. Yeah. I mean, just the glass and dyes alone that I sell, like I'm able to map it. I've hit all continents except Antarctica at this point.
I mean, if you think about it, how hard we all know it is to be a light show artist, it's like that's so much respect and so much, for all of them, for everybody out there that's doing this.
Yeah.
It's like it's a labor of love. It's an amazing thing, and I don't think we've even come close to the golden age. I think when we're going to have holographs, and it's like we may, it's like it's going to keep going. Basically.
So what do you guys think about? What do you guys think about bringing in like the importance of, because especially because of logistics and all that stuff. So it took a turn for digital, using digital tools, which definitely make life a lot easier. But But what about, how do you guys feel about just the reliance on just digital stuff, or what is in your thoughts, is there any importance in keeping an analog element to it? Like,
The problem that I find is that is that our eyes have been trained to this bright, sharp image. And when you go look at something that's like from from the 80s or the 70s or the 60s, it looks dim. And
right,
using analogs, if you could get analog to the brightness and to the clarity of what we see today, sure. But I don't think we can. I think that's
right.
the reason why it's not used anymore.
No, it's tough. Well, the projectors definitely cannot compete with, our modern projectors, let alone a video wall, which can actually overpower stage lighting. But what about, like, but maintaining just the content, whether it's,
Well, I'm going to answer that one.
Yeah.
whether
Let
it's
me
like
go.
clips,
I was about
or
to
whether
say,
it's like a camera that's doing something
Let me go with
live.
that one here. So the guys like Steve, who we did slides for years, I mean, we would build slideshows, with 500 slides in it, or Donovan or Reed, we learn images. And so when I do my video show, which I showed in the last slides, I'm using the same concept. It's just done digitally. So it's like,
Yeah.
I would be taking a picture of a picture and putting that to a slide projector and mixing with a liquid. I'm just doing it through computers and stuff. So it's, to me, since I have the aesthetic and guys like Steve and these other guys know it, we're still staying in the same style,
Right.
more or less.
Ultimately, there's a difference between technology and art and the artistry. The material, the content can always be original. I mean, I remember a woman named Phyllis Laurie who helped get me into this. She used to put lace on overhead projectors, and it was beautiful. So it's like and you could do that digitally just as easily today.
Yeah.
One point I just want to mention is, like, I've been doing this video mapping recently, and the thing is that in a way, what I'm trying to do is bring it back to the original, because the first psychedelic light shows were all room events. I mean, they were just splash liquid visuals everywhere. Once it got to video projection, it sort of is like regulated down to screens, and that sure, sometimes you see it projected around, but it's mostly within a screen frame.
Right.
Mapping, I've taken 3 projectors and put them on each on 3 different walls with wide angle lenses, so they fill the whole walls. Then you can literally map different destinations, different images. You can build the screen in the middle of it. You can do all kinds of stuff and make it look like the original 60s psychedelic experience. So technology can bring us, technology and the experience are not necessarily, connected or disconnected. It depends on what you're trying to do.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, and there's also matters of aesthetics too, like, how sharp or not sharp you want something. Some of the things that I've actually started doing or been doing for a while, like, for instance, like, I got a bunch of slides, right? And when I digitized the slides, I didn't just scan them. I actually took a photograph and manually adjusted, the focus, because I wanted it to be a little bit out of focus sometimes, or I wanted it to be random. So not everything has the same level of scan, because in a real projector, they would each be slightly out of focus, just to give it a little bit of imperfection. And I guess that's why I brought up that question, because bringing in that little bit of imperfection or that randomness that you get in the analog world, I think that's something that's, for me, at least from my aesthetics and
True.
point of view, is something I don't want to see lost. So
As long as you're doing live oils, you're not going to lose that.
that absolutely, yeah, and whether you have it underneath the camera or
You
whatever,
got a plate going. You're
yeah,
real time.
it's always, that's always real time, yeah. So, and that's never going to be the same thing again. So, which is
Well,
really cool
like
about
this
that.
guy, Sean, I worked with, he would Photoshop everything with certain contrast, certain brightness. And when you ran his show, what I did a couple times with him, it would just be the same intensity, where, like, if you had a show that had a soft focus and a hard focus, and that kind of made it different and made it more fun to watch
Yeah.
than just that same intensity level.
Right.
That,
Yeah. Definitely.
So sometimes the imperfection's a good thing.
Well, I've noticed a lot of some of these new, I guess we would call these now the 4th generation light show artists, are actually really trying to explore using the modern technology, but finding the imagery and the look from the old days. So, as we move, again, we're not even close to the golden age of visual arts.
Yeah, I don't. I don't think so either, because maybe we talked about this on another episode, but the price of a projector and some kind of device to do visuals, whether it's a laptop or you get an old school video mixer or whatever, it's now affordable for anybody. For the same, even if you just want to practice for the same price of like a cheap Fender Squire guitar and a practice amp, you can get some kind of, for like a couple $100, you can get started just on something to practice
Yes.
with. And that, because like when I started, like I said, in 2007, part of the reason I actually started doing overheads was because I couldn't afford a laptop or a projector. I was young, I didn't have money, and I was like, oh, I can do this stuff. But now it's like, you can buy a used projector. You find them for $100 online if it's a digital
Used to be
projector.
$1 a lumen.
Dollar a Lumen. Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's about it.
I think that just continues to democratize it. Letting the access to the technology along with the information.
I'm always a big believer in sharing. I feel
Absolutely.
that it's really, really important that the knowledge gets passed around. There really aren't that many of us, even on the planet. I mean, and it still is a close to. It could be a lost art. It almost was. Oil projection almost went away. It didn't, but and it's caring about it. I think it was Pete Rabinowitz, Chris's partner, told me that when he got the light show from Captain Eddie's, the message was, always look out for your light show, and your light show will look out for you, or something like that. It's real wise words from the elders.
Yeah, from Brother Ed. Yeah.
Yeah.
She's a bitch, but she'll take care of you. That's what he told me. Hey, that's exactly what he said, man. And when I arrived in Japan, when there's the guy was holding the sign said Brotherhood of Light, I go, Ed was right. Yeah, here I am in Japan. Wow, doing a light show with the Allman Brothers. Anyway, we're hitting that hour mark, guys. So I think we don't want to burn our audience out. So what do you say, Steve?
It's been a pleasure to do this. It's really nice to actually finally get to talk with you, Steve.
Likewise. Yeah.
And
West, liquid East.
If you ever get to the West Coast, you got a place to stay. You're always welcome.
Thanks, man. I appreciate that. Yeah, man. Really nice to meet you in person, man. We've talked so many times over the years, and
yes.
Like I said, I've seen your work, when I was starting out and everything. So it's really cool to finally, even though we're virtually, talking, but it's nice to see you face to face.
Yes, we'll eventually probably hook up somewhere sometime and do things together. So
I'd love to jam with you, man. That'd be awesome.
Nice. Yes, agreed fully.
Yeah.
All right, gentlemen.
Okay. It's great reminiscing with you, Steve.
Thank you for all you've done, man. It's great.
Yeah, and it made me think, man, going back to all this, because we've been working too hard to think about it, and now we have time off to talk about it a little bit.
It was an epic era, the turn of the century. It was beyond words in so many ways. It was a wonderful time.
All right, let's sign off, boys. See you, everybody, next time around.
All right. Thanks, Steve.
See you later. Bye-bye.